This is the Energizing India Podcast.
Welcome to the Energizing India Podcast, a program where we talk to the key protagonists of the electric vehicle and clean mobility transition industry sector in India. Today, we welcome back Uday Narang san. Uday is one of the few real innovators of electric mobility in India, focusing on the two-wheeler, three-wheeler, as well as the four-wheeler transport space in India. And it's always exciting to have Uday on the show to have a candid conversation about what gives and often what does not. Uday-san, welcome to the program.
It's great to be here. You told me it's 3 years. I thought I've known you for 3 decades. And I'll tell you what, I'll tell all of you out there, I'd rather be on Rav & San's show than, that Karan Johar show or Coffee with Karan, because this is more exciting. And it's been really an honor. I'm a big fan of yours and the entire work that your teams do at ADOR and Quench. And it's just been great to be with you. I've learned so much. Thank you so much for showing us all the way.
Thank you, Uday-san. Very, very kind. As you mentioned, it's been 3 years. We met quite by accident 3 years ago, and it was quite refreshing to do that first podcast with you. Back then, the industry was bubbly, frothy, lots of stuff going on. Anybody who had an idea could get funding of 100 crores or 100 million even sometimes. We're almost to the back end of that phase, 1,000 days later. And my first question to you is, are we in that innovation valley of death in the electric vehicle industry in India right now?
I think you're absolutely right. 3 years ago, everything electric, everything that even talked about it, concepts were raising money. But I think this is an automobile industry. This is a people business. I think, obviously the euphoria, even in the United States, Europe, clean energy and clean energy is supposed to be the future. And I think still is. Nothing has changed. I think what has happened is too many people, short-term thinking, but it happens in every industry. We were talking earlier. It happens in every business. Omega's been around for 56 years. We've seen many players come and go. ADOR's been around for a long, long time. And I think so. What I was going to say is that, yes, we are a little bit of that, but there are other stories. When we started in this journey, as I would say, in a marathon, you have a lot of people in the first part of the race. Now we're getting to, I'm not saying we're at the end of the race, but somewhere in the middle of the race. And I think, you've got less, you've got to be strong. You've got to be financially viable. It's not just green energy and sustainability. It's building sustainable businesses. It's talking about doing things for the long haul. So I think for me, this is extremely a situation where we have to play this in the long game. We also have to make sure that, your product, your marketing, your quality is there. And I think you're going to see a change. And change is happening. Consolidation is happening in a big way. But I'll say there's many, many success stories. We've seen the biggest success I see, when we got into this game, Bajaji, who you know very well, talked about oats. And I think he's eaten all of them already, right, for breakfast. But the big boys and the girls are in the game, which means at the end of the day, the big boys and girls are here. Some of us are still here, but the consumer is going to get a better product. And I think some of the big boys that came into the startup world, raised a lot of money, never gave a good product. They got hammered. And that's what needs to happen. I think we need to have a longer term vision and a quality product, whether it's the 2, 3, 4 passenger. We've had a lot of changes, but I'll say innovation is always going to be there. I mean, you see that in your charging side. Continuous development, a lot of charging companies were there. It was the same thing, whether it was an OEM, whether it was a charging companies, whatever level, in the logistics space, you've seen that change. And I think it's for a better future. And for me, I always look, it's not half empty or half full. I look at the positive side of life. It's a very, very, very tough business. I tell everybody, all entries are free, but there are no exits. And please be careful. Entrench your risk.
Well said. So as you said, we've seen this cycle, the innovation valley of death. We saw it in telecom, we saw it in software, And then, we're seeing it again in electric vehicles. We'll see it in hydrogen. Software is a great example, right? Because you had so many companies in the beginning. You had Yahoo, Napster, you had ICQ. And then from that frothiness came Google, Facebook, Amazon. And they almost monopolize everything that we do in our lives today. And now you're seeing the new trend in AI. They, of course, were startups that got it right. They got their distribution right. And they created sustainable, profitable companies that were not about burn. In your opinion, because you're unique, you're a legacy company that is also a startup. And your competitors are either legacy companies or startups. What do you think the legacy companies got right in the electric vehicle space that they were able to catch up so fast and then become number one ahead of people that was so far ahead of them in competence, technology, capability, energy, funding?
I think clearly you're absolutely right. It's a very valid point. If you go look at the charts over the last 6 years or 7 years, when I say really the markets came in, maybe even post-COVID, the two-wheelers, I mean, the names have completely changed. All the people that were leading are pretty much gone. Sorry to say, that's what it is. I'm not going to name names, but the charts show that. Some of the guys that we're talking about in the startup saying we're leaders, they're also going down. They even had the money, right? I think the focus was never, the big boys and girls talked about, look, let the startups be the special forces that open the way, and then we'll bring the cavalry, right? So I think, but they also did the right thing. I think it's a learning for startups. It's a learning for me. It's a learning for everybody. Make a strong product. If you make a strong product, it will give the incumbents a tough fight. But the incumbents, and I'll talk about Bajaj, very much open. Look at him, super company, waited it out, didn't get into all of this Twitter battles, said, I'm going to build a product. And he looked at the market. And they were patient, but you also have to understand they have the systems, they have the people, they have the supply. We built the supply chain. The startups, back then there was no supply chain. So, they played it smart. But I also think the startups played it wrong about talking about round A, B, C, D, not working on the quality. Look at ATA, super product, very highly R&D, has done well. And I think they're going to do really well. See, it's not about, with me, it's not about OSM, or it's about the overall ecosystem. We got into this, and this is why you and I have a very, good respect for each other, is that there are successes. There are things that need to be done. But honestly, we at startup, I'm going to call myself a startup, I'm not a startup anymore, but being a startup, we gave them an opportunity. We gave them a window. We didn't take care of the customers. We didn't give the quality. We didn't give the service. We didn't give the parts. We didn't do all of this. We didn't make sure that the customer understands this is an electric vehicle. This is not a mechanical, it's electronics. If something in tier 2, 3, 4 cities, electronic system goes wrong, there's no engineers to fix it. And this is not something where you can say, in one day, I'm going to open up 5,000 dealerships, or I'm going to put 10,000 service stations. It requires a planning. So I'll be honest with you. I don't blame the incumbents. I blame ourselves. We should have been better, but I still think this is an early part of the race. There's a lot to go. It'll make a stronger ecosystem. Today, and Ramasan, 7 years ago, we didn't have the suppliers. We didn't have, look at where you were on the charging sector and where you are. Today, Quid chargers look like, to me, from another planet, right? And you're talking about AI and all of that. So look at how much you've changed in your organization compared to all of us. So I think, change with the time, or time will change you. I still think that, we gave the startups had a lead. Then we got, over with the OEMs, the incumbents. It's a T20 match. I don't like T20. I like long-term cricket. Lords is next week. I'm always a big fan of cricket in Lords. I don't know how many of your fans know about cricket, but I'll say, it's a long way to go. There's going to be, back and forth. It is clear that the incumbents have a ton of money. Money matters. In this game, size, scale will require a lot of capital. They do have the capital. The Indian stock market is giving them that opportunity. But that doesn't mean startups can do. We're talking about ecom. I'm sorry, I'm bringing everybody into this mix. They've done well. right? So they were a startup. They were not even in the automobile production when we started this game. And now they're building buses and trucks and three-wheelers and everything, right? So it could be the new Tata. So my answer to you is that we gave an opportunity. Still a long way to go, and I think you've just got to keep fighting it. It's not an easy. This is not going to be a business. Sometimes, and we're having very candid things. I talk to you. The amount of money I personally put into OSM. If I put it in Dubai real estate, I think I could be a better actor than Suresh, the Oberoi guy who's putting up casinos. And I mean, that'd be the easier way to make money. Forget about Dubai. I could have put that money in Gurgaon real estate, and I didn't have to do any work. I could come to your podcast and talk about every things and not work. But I think this requires a lot of bottle. This requires a lot of effort, because at the end of the day, it's people that are touching this product.
And it does feel, just to round up that discussion on the innovation valley of death, it feels like the innovation part is done, and it's the distribution part now that everybody has to get right to make sure that you have a reliant, resilient product that can be serviced, available everywhere, and builds customer trust, which is exactly what you were talking about. So let's talk a little bit more candidly about the problem that is impacting everyone, the legacy businesses and the startups in India in the EV sector space, and that is, the big panda, China. We have a geopolitical issue, and we have a supply chain throttle where whatever we need is starting to get difficult to acquire from China. So it was first electric motors, then it became rare earths, and as you said yourself, we are constantly in reactive mode to a supplier whose best interests are not served by us being successful. You're in the crux of it. I was reading in the newspapers today, Bajaj reckons that they will have to cut back production by 35%. TVS reckons that they might have to do the same. Ather says that they've got enough magnets for 6 months, but that's hope, 6 months, because what happens after 6 months unless the government is able to sort some policy out or the Chinese change their policy? You're in the midst of all of this because you're making the three-wheelers, you're making the trucks. Where is your head at in this, Uday Sanya? Are you awake at 3 a.m. going, what gives, what's going to happen, where am I going to find my sales from, and what are your plans?
You're absolutely spot on. But I'll tell you what, did we not expect, it's going to be a tit for tat. And if anybody's taught us this, it's the leader in the White House. Tariffs, make everything great again, build barriers. Ravan, I don't come from this world. I mean, for me, open trade, working together. So what did you expect from China? We're gonna protect, we're gonna let their citizens not come to this country. The visa thing started with us, and we said we're gonna restrict it. Now they're gonna flex their muscles. It's like anybody, right? It's reactive, right? And we, we've done so many good things. I'm a big fan of where this country is going in terms of the economy. But I mean, did we not expect? Why are we always firefighting? Why can't we? I come from the world where offense is the best defense. We seem to be just always on defense. And we just want to be traders, right? We want to just say, let's sell, let's make quick money and think about it tomorrow. Well, that's not how global countries look at. Listen, I'm not a China fan, but look at where the Chinese are on technology. Look at where they are. It didn't happen in one day. It happened with the planning. It happened with the government. It happened with all sorts of thought process. So coming back to, it's very sad to see. You're right. Bajaj talked about in their investor call about they're going to have impact. Now, I'm again going to say, is magnets the only issue? What else is going to come down the road? The Chinese will play this. Okay, we talk about, the Prime Minister talked about me being the second largest cell phone maker in the world. Well, the Chinese were taken away from the Chinese. They're going to react. They're going to tell Foxconn, send all those 300 engineers back and let you do it yourself. We'll find a way, but it'll put a disruption. So why do we need to get to a stage where they have that gun in our head? I feel. So I think we as a community, we as, private, but the private public sector has to work together. And we have to look at all the other areas where we could be, where the Chinese, which have control, they have control of rare earths. I was reading early this morning on rare earths that, they control majority of the rare. And so they have gone down to the commodity level. look at the thought process. And again, I'm not afraid of the Chinese. I just think we've got to learn from our mistakes and be better. So coming back to it, I was up at 3:00 this morning. I finished up around midnight last night. It is supply chain is to keep up. You talked about putting, I put 250 close to dealerships across this country. If I don't give them product, there are 250 families and extended families that have trusted on me. It keeps me up at night. It tells me they have put money in it. If I don't give them product, they're not going to make a livelihood, and that's going to impact my customers. Now what we need, and then so if one player is having a problem or two players, they're going to come to other players. But then there's a limited amount of magnets. If Aether has 6 months, if somebody else is supplying, their 6 months production will get crunched. They could have a problem faster, right? But I hope calmer minds can come. I'm hoping that there'll be some more, reality check, and everybody will find, shooting missiles at each other has never ever given a solution. You have to sit across the table and discuss it.
I completely agree with you. But what I'm worried about is there's one word I keep hearing in boardrooms in our industry, and that is hope. I hope that this is going to happen. I hope that there will be calmer minds. If there isn't any change, we're headed for market failure. Market failure means people won't be able to access vehicles, prices will go up, distortion will happen, you'll have all sorts of arbitrage. And yet the word that is being discussed is hope. I want to just probe you a little, because you're the only candid person we speak to. What happens in 3 months if nothing changes?
Well, I'll tell you more than the business. We got into this business, and I know when I say we, I include you. We got in this business because we wanted to make a cleaner, greener India. We care about, Rav, and I'm not saying this because I'm on your show. I learned so much from you. The grace and the way you present yourself and the way you are. We got into this business because we want to make a change. And I think a movement towards that. We have been working hard for 6-7 years. We've built momentum. You see green plates now, more and more and more. It's a long way to go, but we still need that. So I think it is a serious problem. I think the governments need to sit down. I think, I don't believe in hope. I look at reality. So at the moment, I'm working all the angles for the next 6, 8, 12 months to continuously, for me, one day gone is one day less. So continually, I'm not saying I've got 6 months support. I need to say, where do I have the next 12 to 24 months support? Where can I go? How does the cost increase not going to impact my customers? How do I recycle? I mean, nobody's using the word recycle. Nobody's talking about how are we going to. So we are working with the Japanese, with the Koreans, other players. It'll be a little bit more cost. How do we reduce costs somewhere else so that the customers don't get affected? I don't think hope means anything. I think that it would prevent more and more. I forget about 3-wheelers and 2-wheelers. Buses, which is extremely important which is extremely important now for our economy, as well as for where the momentum is coming. Huge investments have been put in by a lot of people. The systems are being set up. So I think, I think we have to be more and more, proactive rather than reactive. I do believe, I'm a positive guy. I think forget the hope, but I think you've got to look at other places. I think magnetless motors, there are many companies here who have that technology, who haven't been scaled up. There has to be, looking at alternate sources. You have to work on building supply chains. The biggest thing, which I think which was, plaguing us for the last 6-7 years, was supply chain. Supply chain got better. Now we got this problem. But I think we didn't think through this. I mean, so I think it's not just magnets. What else can we get affected in chips, in We should have been investing in semiconductors, not now, 5 years ago. What were we doing? Sleeping? And I am going to come out, talk about the PLI schemes. We did the PLI schemes for cell manufacturing. How many actual cell plants have come in? I don't want to say anything. Most of those players don't even know how to spell C. Forget about being a cell. I mean, go down the list, right? So I think the policies have to, and I'm never, ever going to complain about the government. The government is doing enough, but I think there has to be some thought process here. And I think you were talking to me earlier. We've got to think for the next decade or the next 2 decades. And we want to make sure that we don't make these mistakes. And I think the cell game, honestly, I don't know how you're going to beat the Chinese on cell production. You're going to build certain cell plants that reduce the cost further. And they'll reduce the cost further. India is so price sensitive. How are you going to compete on that? So I think commodity products, don't focus on that. Focus on new technology, focus on a long-term vision and work on it. And if it's a commodity product, I think we buy it from somewhere else. You buy oil from somewhere, you go buy, gold from somewhere. It's a commodity. Commodities, we can't focus on that.
So the point you make is very true. The PLI scheme was about making the cell in India, and the problem is people were committing between $1 and $4 billion to put in cell plants. And as they were about to make the investment, BYD and CATL released new technology that dropped the prices in such a way that this project was already untenable 3 years before it was going to be ready. But I want to challenge you, Uday-san, because what you're talking about is a structural shift in Indian thinking. You're saying don't focus on the commodity, focus on innovation. And yet India, the whole model is about take an idea and scale it up and bring the cost down. It isn't about rewarding innovation, right from government policy through to the education policy, then industrial policy, and then the mindset of industrialists or people in business who will take the entrepreneurial risk. Everybody wants to take an idea that worked and redo it here. What is Flipkart, right? What are the other delivery apps? These are not ideas that came up in India. These are ideas that worked overseas and were brought to India and scaled up. So you do not see any sort of innovation being rewarded in India, and yet everything you've talked about is to do that. And there's 3 or 4, maybe 5 companies in India in our sector who you could name who are actually taking the risk on innovation. In order to get through this rare earths issue, and then the next issue that'll come, whatever it is, it takes the whole economy coming together to work through that pain, to build resilience on the other side. That's what the Japanese did in the 50s, the Koreans did in the 60s. Do you think we're set up for that and capable of that?
I think you're absolutely right. Look at South Korea. I mean, there was a country maybe 50 years ago where the average wage was, I think, $36. The last I checked was close to $38,000 a person. Look at how much change that has happened. It was a poor country. The country and the people got behind it. Raman said, I'm not going to live in a glass-colored building. I know India is a very tough country. It's a very tough place. Lately, I'm very bothered by, in Maharashtra, we have to speak Marathi. In Karnataka, we have to speak Kannada. This is not good, right? We are one nation. We are one people. Yes, our own culture is important. So are we going to be able to take like China or Korea or Japan? I think it's going to be tough. But I think what we have an advantage is we have scale of smart people. We have educational system. We do now have, if you have a good product or if you have a good idea, money is available. I mean, how that money is being used by a lot of these startups is not to just go to TikTok or, sorry, not TikTok, but, go to Instagram and promote yourself is not what I really want. Look, I'm with you. I'm never going to say Flipkart or Zomato or all of these delivery. They're bad ideas, but they're not going to change this country to be, just talking about being the third largest economy in the world. Are we, is the third largest economy controlled by 20 families? Is that the India we want? No. So my question is, this is where, educational institutions need to work together with us more. There has to be more. I just walked in here and you had a student from abroad, who had studied in America and coming here and working on AI with you. That is what needs to happen. And that needs to happen in scale. It cannot be you and me. It has to be a bigger scale. And also the mentality. Ravan-san, I cannot tell you how many times I speak to businessmen and their vision is how quick I can make money, how quick I feel like I'm in a Turkish market. Everybody wants to be a trader, right? I mean, guys, that's not how countries move forward. And so I think that requires a mindset. There are people, there are a lot of people. I mean, I'm going to give you examples of, look at Motherson, they built a global company, superb ideas. Unfortunately, we had, Sona Comstar, unfortunately, the founder, had passed away. It was very sad, but look at what they have done. So I'm giving you examples of multiple other companies, and there are many, many such companies that are all across this country. We do have to have a mindset. I don't know if the government has got, continuous pressure. They've got too many other things to do. To run this country is a very, very enormous task. But there has to be some thought process where you have to be able to put that front. I keep saying, you're from, you're Indian, you're Australian, and you're always out in the front lines looking after this country. We need more of that. I, for one reason, Rav and San, my family, I'm giving you something personal here. My mother thinks I'm mad. She said, at this age, you're putting so much effort, so much time for what? And so much pain. I can see you're also in the same game. But some of us, that soldier on the front line when Operation Sindoor happened, that soldier is making nothing. He or she is willing to take a bullet to save this country. Are we not willing to take a bullet for taking our country ahead or whatever way? So for me, this is a very emotional thing. I feel, this is important. This is the most important agenda. We have to combine forces together, and we've got to make sure that we think of the fight. But can we build a similar model? I would say take a model that is successful abroad, but we have to localize it with Indian thought process. But there are multiple success stories. I mean, I'll give you an idea. Even in our space, we had Arun San, who you know very well, at Exponent. Look at what a great company he's building. So there are, there are multiple other examples like this in powertrains and motors, as OEMs. So I think we've got to be able to seriously, and you know what? I don't care whether the big boys are thinking or not. We've got to lead the way. And if we lead the way and it makes India better, it's been worth my while.
So coming together as an industry, the automotive industry has SIAM, and they are lobbying the government as of this week to, if we have a magnet crisis, then allow us to import whole motors, which sounds like a stopgap, but it also sounds like in some form the Chinese policy initiatives working to go back to a greater dependence. Just to finish off on the topic of innovation, rare earths, and building supply chain resilience, how does that strike you? That
it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow. But taking 2 steps back for 5 steps ahead. Life's like this. You got to pivot. The people that don't pivot, change with the time, or time will change you. I don't like it, but I don't like a lot of things. I don't like 1500 AQI in this city either. That does not mean that I'm not going to work towards changing the ecosystem. Delhi's taken a big step on that. So yes, if it stops, if it's a step back, and yes, the Chinese have won on that. But as I said, it's a long game. Let them win a little bit. We'll come back. We'll regroup. And I think that's life. That's got nothing to do with business. So I think we've got to keep the bravado and the ego on the side. Put country first. It's not about making India great again. India is great, but it's probably about making sure that the entire Indian population is great. Okay? I'm very concerned that, we are leaving behind billion people and only a small minority of people are moving ahead. And this country can never be that. I hope, at least for me, I'll die for that cause till, I'll always make sure that I put my efforts in there. I know there's a lot of people, but you're absolutely right. Listen, if we need to do it, let's not stop the momentum. Let's make sure the vehicles are there. It's going to be a 3-6 month period, whatever time period it is, and then we'll come back and we'll do it. At the end of the day, it's not about winning for short term. It's for the longer term game. And green energy sustainability is important. More vehicles need to be put, alternate technologies need to be evaluated. But we should give innovation money. There should be support. I have said, very controversial statement, I don't think we need PLI schemes, or we need we need subsidy. Put the money to work in in innovation. Put that billions and billions of dollars towards promoting new technologies. Put that in charging. Put that in all of this. I think the OEMs will have to figure it out. They have enough money. I look at their balance sheets. They seem to be making a lot of money. So they're making a lot of money. They don't need the subsidy, right? I'm being very sorry. I'm an old Wall Street guy. Look at the balance sheets. I don't see any of the. If you look at the earnings of all the top OEMs in the country, they're all making pretty good money. The CEO is doing quite well.
So I want to touch on two subjects. One is the subsidies you just talked about, and then we'll come to Delhi. On the subsidies, the FAME scheme is now history. The PLI scheme hasn't quite taken off. How do you see the industry evolving? You just said that they're all very profitable and should be able to make the investments themselves, don't need the government money, which is absolutely right. But a lot of companies did also benefit from it, particularly the smaller end. Now that the subsidies have been weaned off and the training wheels are off, how is the industry going to evolve, and what does the industry need to do?
I think the industry is very well ready, at least in the 2 and the 3 wheelers. I think there should be some more support on the trucks. I think there was no support really on the trucks. Now there should be. I think specifically between the 1 to 3. See, the bigger ton trucks are there, but when I see it, there's only few. The few of the trucks are just roaming around. I'm saying 10 tons and over. Very few. It's not scale. But my point right now is the TCO model works. We should see more and more, even without. There's no subsidy. I think that 25,000 in 3 wheelers and 5,000-10,000 in 2 wheelers is not going to be making much of a difference. So I think that that money now doesn't need to be there. I think they should put some more money on trucks. I think the ecosystem on supply chain is building, which has reduced costs. Look at the biggest thing. 1/3 of the cost was battery cost. And battery costs have gone downtown. I mean, you see continually battery prices, which were over $200 a kilowatt hour, now is down to somewhere 40 to 50. And you look at what BYD and CATL are doing, the prices seem to be, and I think there's a lot of supply. There's a lot of excess supply. I think it'll take time to wean it off. But I think you're going to be able to, at these prices, bring it more efficiently, scale it up, bring supply and distribution to the picture. And I think you should be able to do this. I don't see in the buses, I think there still needs to be some support. But I think that also is doing quite well. I think that the only place which requires subsidy should be the trucks. And I think they should put money in charging. The charging network needs to be able more and more. I've said this to you before. And charging in the right place, right? You can't have charging in places where it's not. And then your good friend, Karthik San is doing some great work on this. And you see other companies doing work on this. I hope they're all using your chargers. But what I wanted to say was that, I think that there is no need for subsidies here. That money should again be used for innovation, in my view. And I think a lot of OEMs will not like me for that. But I think the products, the TCO models, the supply chain is moving ahead. Make in India with alliances. Now, one thought process could be, it's controversial, but I'm saying we have prevented Chinese companies from coming in here in scale. What about having a thought process where, in this case, we let them be partners to make in India? I mean, that's a thought that can be. Why, if Chinese were our partners in India and they had investments here, would they stop the magnets? Maybe not. So it's a thought process. It's a country. It's a high level discussion, and I think we need to think through that. I mean, our friends at UCMG, I have a lot of great respect for MG. MG has SIAC Motors as a minority partner. MG has done really well. The leadership has done very well. And so I think that's also that's something that we should think about. Nobody's talking about it.
Interesting model there.
But
Yes.
we could, right? So I think, we have to learn to live, nobody chooses neighbors. Neighbors come with each other. We've got to find a way. We're never going to be able to get rid of China or Pakistan or Bangladesh. We have to learn to find a solution. And to me, yes, fighting and bravado is okay for the movies, but in real life, it's not ever giving a solution.
True. So then Delhi, your city, has been plagued with very poor quality air, has tended to have stochastic reactive responses to, banning diesel trucks in winter. And now they've come up with a policy of anything over 10 years old will not get fuel and will be impounded. And they've got all sorts of technology in fuel stations to identify a number plate. So it seems the money's gone in a very different direction. But yet they've also done a lot of good work in cleaning up the air. And the electric vehicles conversion initiative is one of those. What's your view on what's going to happen from here and what they need to do or what they've done well?
Look, I'm going to use a line, guys. वो कहते हैं दिलवालों की दिल्ली. I don't know if it's दिलवालों की दिल्ली or is it them, the dilwalas are all looking out for them. In this city, which we call the capital, the AQI shows 500, it's actually 1500 if you go and look at the Swiss monitors, and we blame each other. I do see, some effort, but, the more needs to be done. I'll tell you what, people say there's a Delhi subsidy. I want to know who got paid the subsidy. When was the last time anybody got a subsidy? Okay. And I'll tell you, it's going to be a long time coming before anybody can say I even got any money. So making announcements, telling people exciting over the newspaper and LinkedIn and social media platforms, there has to be actual follow-up. I think the government in Delhi now that it's a central government, there should be more clarity, there should be more money, there should be more support. This city needs to be done. There are some drastic actions being taken. I want them enforced, right? We need to build the infrastructure. Now, we're going to put everything on EV. I'm going to come back. Do we have enough charging infrastructure? So we're going to put, if we're going to put 1 million vehicles, for example, do we have the charging in front? Do we have the system? We don't, right? So then where do we have the energy? So, making those statements and not having a look in the back. Look, it's great in front of the public and for Vopak, but we've got to be able to see that's, when you go to Chinese cities, look at the development, look at Shanghai, look at others, it's not even the major cities, look at what is being done. So I think we can learn from that. So Delhi is, but I'll tell you what, the thought process is great. I love it. All of these three-wheelers being electric, trucks being electric, cars being electric, or alternate source of energy, which is going to be done. But do we have the power? Do we have the infrastructure? Do we have the rules and regulations, where we can put that charging infra? Do we have a clear policy? You talked about it early on. Somebody invests a huge amount of money and they change the law. This is also very tricky here, right? So, we've got to be able to do it. But I'll tell you what, we are putting that 15-minute fast charging in this city and in Bangalore. And people are loving it, right? People are loving
this
it.
Is the exponent system.
The exponent system, which is the 15-minute fast charging. It's people are clocking double. So the TCO model works. So when the TCO model works, our dream of a cleaner, greener India also works. So there's a lot of good stuff. I want more. I'm always going to ask for more for, on this space. But I think that the thought process at the top level, just the government has just come in, it's not been long term, has been right. They came on a mandate for cleaner air, cleaner streets, cleaner city, the waterways, the roadways. Time will tell. It's too early. It's too early. But I do hear continuous relationships and talks with the government that they're doing it. If Delhi can do it, then Bangalore and I'm telling you, your city, which was beautiful, Pune. I'm heading back. I'm heading out there late tonight. It's also getting quite crowded. I think it's a changed Pune. Yes, if I feel, a safe haven in Pune, it's your campus. Your employees they are just blessed to love to work in a place like that. I like to live there, but I'm going to say that it's Delhi has got a long way to go, but we are seeing a lot of work. I think the trucks need to get on it because very few trucks are really electric here. More needs to be done. It's a very great opportunity. And I think, it'll work. I hope. No, I'm not going to use the word hope. We're going to make it happen. Right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I know you're a busy man today, so answer the final question. Since we talked about trucks, OSM has an electric truck. In fact, you have two. You have the small pickup, the 1-tonner, and then you have the large one that's been planned. 2 questions. Where are you on your rollout phase? And more importantly, you've talked about only 2 or 3 trucks in Delhi, which is absolutely right. We do need intracity and intercity. And logistics is the next big wave, for India. GST started that, Amazon and, all the other warehouse enabling companies have come. So where's your truck at, and how do you see this evolving between now and 2030?
Look, we had the truck ready, but the cost was about 14 lakhs. I think it's too high. Today or tomorrow, I'm hearing Tata's going to come up with a 699. I already am at 699. I think I have to reduce it further. So we went back to the drawing board. We should be rolling it out next month. We should be rolling it out next month. Definitely August 15th. I need to be there. The final approvals are there on the new truck, the baby Mika. I think the price needs to be 6 to 6.5 lakhs on the 1 ton. Okay, that's where you're going to meet the Chota Hathi, the Tata Ace equivalent. But I think the other trucks, I think anything above 10 lakhs or 11 lakhs is expensive. I think you're going to find a problem. They'll have to go back like us to the drawing board, and they'll come back. Because if you look at the Vahan portal, apart from Tata and one more, the numbers are very few because the cost is too high. The logistic place, I run a very large logistic company. And the logistic companies say, well, why are we going to use electric if the cost is so high compared to ICE? So that's where we are. We are also, I'll tell you, I've built a team now where we are building a much bigger truck. We're building, we showcased at the auto show, the bigger truck, 7.5. We're working on a 10 plus, and you're going to be the first one when the prototype is ready. By March, it will go into homologation. I'll let you test that truck. So to me, trucks is the big game. I think we need to change more and more. I think the 3-wheeler game is already, the TCO model works on the cargo passenger. The trucks need to be more, but it's been cost effective. I mean, if you look at an average price, a 1-ton truck on electric is anywhere from 10 to 15 lakhs, right? I think it's too high. I think this pricing of 6.5 to 7, or maybe 6 to 7 for intercity. Intercity is not going to be, intercity going to need it more expensive. Intracity, you should be able to do a 6.5 lakh. I think the day you do that, you're going to crack the code. All the Tata Aces will convert to electric. And I think that's where Tata sees it. And that's where they're going. And I think a lot of us have room to play that. I'll tell you what, if you look back, I was probably one of the first ones pushing trucks. It required, and I'm very candid about it, this journey has been all my money. Yes, we have an investment from XG Corp Japan. It's more in terms of the technology. We're coming up with CVT technology on 3-wheelers and in trucks. And I'm going to make you drive that. You'll see CVT. It's something very different. It's the final stages of approval. But I'll tell you what, it requires an enormous amount of capital. I love car racing. I'm the top 3-4 positions in the race, but there's 20, 30 laps left, and I didn't want to run out of fuel. So I pulled back that, but I'm coming back on trucks, and you'll see more of that. But I think trucks, that's not for OSM, but for this whole country, is extremely important. It's extremely important. I think we need to all work on that. And I'll keep saying, we need those chargers, and I hope more and more are quench chargers across this country, which are able to be providing that infrastructure.
Uday-san, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for having made the time. We look forward to the next one.
Thank you so much. And it's 3 years. I hope 30 years later, when you're still 25, and I'm an old man, we're still doing this. All of you guys, this is the show to watch. It's been superb. I'm blessed to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Uday-san.